Today we have a lot of new people. That's awesome. And today our topic will be about interviews and data science. And actually, so interviews in data science. But first, I will quickly talk what X technology is, and then we will introduce ourselves. So X technology, it's the community of people who are interested in different technologies, so software engineering, data science, and everything around. And we get together here and share our knowledge and learn new things and meet new people. That's one of the most important aspects of our activities. And we actually met two awesome people quite recently. It's Akshita and Nikolay. And I think you could just quickly introduce ourselves and then we get going. So please, guys.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Nikolay. Back in time, I was a physicist, and then I became a software engineer. And now I'm doing something in between software engineering and product management in a great company called CodeSignal. And I think I will talk about this company a bit later.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I am Akshita. I am a computer science undergraduate in my final year and I'm from India. I'm currently working with Major League Hacking as a pod leader. Yeah.
Great. Welcome, guys. So it's more and more people. I'm super happy. And yeah, so we can slightly jump to today's topic. So as I mentioned, it's around interviews in data science. And as you just have heard, so Nikolay is working in a company called CodeSignal. And maybe we can start from Nikolay, you introducing what your company is doing. And
Sure. When you're a software engineer and some company wants to hire you, probably they have to check some of your skills, right? And usually it takes a lot of efforts and other like resources like time and money, because you usually use other software engineer to test your like skills, and time of software engineers are usually quite expensive. So my company is trying to solve this problem by automation, and we have a platform on which we have like bunch of tasks that could like scientifically proven, that could assess your technical skills. So with our product, it would look like that you apply for some role, and then you just got a link from the company. Like, for example, you go to Meta, you want to be a software engineer there, you apply there, then you got a link from them, and that's a link of like from our platform. Then you go to this platform, spend like 1.5 hours solving different tasks that can check different skills in a short time, and then you have some score. And based on the score, these companies could decide either to invite you to the on-site interview or to refuse your application. So we kind of we are helping to connect people from all over the world to the companies to like find a good match for them, and we can like check if they match to each other or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great intro. And do you also kind of offer the potential candidates a place to train and to know what they're going to experience during the interviews?
Yeah, usually like you can check out the platform before you actually started the interview. It's not really interview because you don't have an interaction with a person. But yeah, you can use some playground there to get to know the platform and typical format of the tasks to train a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. I kind of from time to time I'm interested, and in my free time I'm googling around these platforms. Of course, LeadCode and these kind of things. And yeah, I'm just browsing and looking what I could be expected to be doing. Let's say, but as I understand, most of these platforms, they are really oriented to software engineers. like the typical algorithms. I don't know, knowing the complexities of the tasks and solving the algorithms. Do you kind of do it in the same way, or you offer different kinds of tasks for, I don't know, different groups of candidates?
It wouldn't make any sense to do the same LeadCode does, right? From our customers, or like from our potential customers, we know that LeadCode doesn't solve all of the problem of skill checking, because it assesses, as you said, like skills of the algorithmic programming, which is usually quite far from typical day-to-day life and work of the software engineer. So we are not really focused on algorithmic tasks. We are trying to move much more into industry coding. So like some design, some problem solving. I mean, you have to understand how to solve some problems, which is kind of business problem, and you have to write a code to solve this business problem. So it's much more similar with typical industry coding experience.
Yeah, actually, that's a great idea, and I feel happy that at least someone is thinking about it because
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
not
that's
easy.
really interesting coming off as a fresher and trying to get your hands on and being able to display all of your skills in a very holistic manner.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, actually, do you have experience with some of this kind of platforms? Do you have
Yes, so I've
experience?
been giving a lot of these interviews recently, and we have LeadCode and we have HackerRank, and lot of similar platforms where people are like, you're expected to code with the interviewer, and there's a lot of latency on these platforms, and usually the problem sets are the say 100 200 regular problems that you see in every interview, and it's more like mugging up stuff and less of using your own creativity or using your own brain to solve those problems.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I have similar thoughts. But as I understand, so Nikolai is here to like change the world.
Kind of, at least some part of this work, small part, but quite important, since like I have a picture in my mind that world is developing like super fast right now, and most of this, like not most, but big part of this development is concentrated in IT field. So the effectiveness of this development of this like movement somewhere, we don't know where, but we are moving somewhere, depends on the talents that are working in some companies. So if we can improve the funnel of the process of finding those talents and matching them with the right companies, I think it will make some improvements of this process. I cannot say that it will make world a better place, because like, we don't know what's the better, but definitely it can improve the speed of some process.
I hope it will make the world a better place. Yeah, so in a way, yeah.
At least for people appearing for interviews.
That's
Totally,
true.
totally.
Uh,
So yeah.
You mentioned an interesting topic about LeadCode and your experience with it. Could you share like some of the feelings about the process of interviewing on these platforms? Like, what was the pros and cons of these tools for you? I mean, it's in your experience.
So personally, I'm not somebody who's really in the favor of having these technical interviews solely based on problem solving skills, because again, there are these top 100 questions on lead code that most people say that if you do these, all other problems are basically related to these, and if you solve these, then you're ready to solve any other problem. And yeah, with my experience and with the people, like experience of people around me, people are solving 300 400 problems on lead code just blindly, mugging them every day, revising them every day, and then they appear in interviews and yeah, obviously, if you've solved 300, 400 problems, there's a very high chance that the next problem that you get in the interview, that you have to code out in front of your interviewer, is one of those. And like it gets super easy to attempt it. So I don't think there's any challenge left in those interviews anymore, as compared to, say, when the interview is much more structured in a way that it actually challenges the candidate's capability. So now there's a very less chance that you'll get a very unique problem to solve. And personally, in my case, out of say around 25 interviews that I've given on platforms like LeadCode and HackerRank, uh, I guess just once. That is, I was interviewing with DE Shaw, and just once it was that I got a problem which was totally unique, nowhere to be found on the internet, no previous solutions to it, and yes, that actually challenged my problem solving skills. But otherwise, most of the problems were usually like, I know the brute force way, I know the optimal, I know the suboptimal way, I know all the three ways this problem can be solved, and I just have to pretend in front of the interviewer that, oh, I'm struggling. Oh no, after 2 minutes now I know the answer. And so the interview is much more like a pretentious activity that's going on, and that really reduces the experience of having that. I don't know, putting yourself out there to get hired. I think that reduces a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Did I get it right that you are talking about the phenomenon that interviewers cannot really check the skills of the candidate? They check how how well candidate prepared
Has
for
memorized
this
the
interview.
solutions to the
Okay.
problems, right?
Okay. I
And
see.
yeah, I vividly remember one interview where I was given a whiteboard to actually draw out my approach to the problem. I think that was one thing that really brought up that cut off this slack between mugging up problems and actually knowing the problem. So having that experience was kind of unique.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
It's actually very, very interesting because I have similar but a bit different experience. So I started looking at all these LeadCode tasks and HackerRank just maybe a couple years ago, and before I was working in the industry without even knowing that this exists. And for me, it's not like I go through the 100 or 200 exercises, I memorize them, and then it's okay. For me, it's, I don't know, more challenging. So I spent quite some time, and even if I did like, I don't know, 50 tasks, then if I come back in 2 or 3 weeks, it's not like I'm remembering how to do them. And yeah, when I'm interviewed in the companies that have really strict interviewing processes, like you have to solve the lead code task in 20 minutes and that's it, then your time is out, then I'm under some really serious stress because I can do it maybe in 40 minutes if I'm chill, if I have time. But in 20, I'm just thinking, wow, what's this? Have I done it already? Like what to do? Like how not to make a mistake and so on. So yeah, it's very interesting that I'm coming from a different spectrum. So some people really, for them, it's like, well, I memorized 300. Now it's not a challenge. And for me, it's like, whoa, come on, it's a great stuff. So, yeah.
And it's really unfair for candidates who are appearing for positions, say for data science or for machine learning or any other fields that are not, generalized like a software engineer position. It really gets unfair for those people.
Yeah, yeah,
Totally agree with it.
yeah. It's actually interesting how do software engineers perceive it. I don't know. Because, I mean, it's, yeah.
As a software engineer, I hate these algorithmic tasks. I mean, I know a lot of people who are super far from these algorithmic problems in their day-to-day life. And I would say that majority of the software engineers are far from it. I mean, you have to know some basic stuff. You have to understand some like stuff about complexity and some data structures that you use to make the work optimal, but you don't need to solve super complicated problems. Or if you do need to do it, you can just Google find an approach and solve it. I mean, you don't need to know this approach, or you don't need to come up with idea in 20 minutes to solve this problem. I mean, so for me, it's much more important how I think about the problem, how I can design my code to avoid like a lot of code duplication, or how to make it like easier to read and understand. I mean, to decrease the cognitive complexity of the code and like other stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm super happy to hear that. So maybe in a while, all the interviewing processes will move to a more humane way. Let's see. Yeah. And I don't know if we could jump a bit into more technical parts. So
data science related part.
Yeah. For example.
Yeah, I can make like some short introduction why I'm interested in it. I'm not data scientist. I had some backgrounds connected to optimization of neural network inference, but it's not my field at all. But in CodeSignal, we have developed quite good product to assess the skills of software engineers, like in industry way. But as we all know, there is a huge market of data scientists, which also need to be assessed somehow. And now we are developing another branch of our product to assess data science and like ML engineering skills. So we don't want to do another algorithmic tasks. We want to find a way which is well known to the industry, and how like in real industry people assess skills of the data scientists or ML engineers. So I'm here to ask questions about experience of data science interviews and skills that are important to the data scientists and ML engineers.
Totally. I think actually then myself will be happy to share our experience regarding that.
Yep. So I did appear for a few data science related jobs as well. And I can certainly say that getting a job as a data scientist, being a fresher, is not easy at all, because most people really want somebody who's perfect at the field, who knows what they're doing, who has say 2 or 3 years of experience in doing the work, because they're gonna put their money on you, and they really need somebody who's persistent to actually get the task done that they are doing. But yeah, obviously the amount of knowledge that a data scientist has does not come overnight. But I think nowadays that this word has been buzzing around so much, I think students are learning from the ground up, where they should be learning it properly, getting the required experience through building projects, understanding the concepts in depth. And yeah, if they're looking to start a current data science as a fresher, I think companies have they've relieved the selection process a bit to kind of take them in as interns first, train them on the technologies that they want to, and then probably move forward with the candidate. So my experience so far has been similar, because I interned as a data science intern first, and then I was offered a full-time job there.
Okay, and can you tell me something about your experience during the interview as a candidate or as an interviewer, if you had such experience?
Yeah, so the whiteboard interview that I was talking about was exactly this one. And the
Okay.
company was basically an AI based fintech platform who used to, I really can't disclose the kind of work that they were doing because they're still a private company. But so I was made to, like draw the this a single node of an RNN classifier. I was told that you should draw this node and explain how this works. And I think that was something that really challenged something, because anybody who Googles stuff like that, or anybody who tries to say write that out in code, it's just a matter of a couple lines of Python code if you import libraries and start doing it. And that doesn't really show the candidate's ability at all. And that in my experience has been really good. So that was one company that did it the right way. Otherwise, in general, the data scientist applications that come up forward, they usually, I have no idea why they take data structures and algorithms interviews first, because those two have absolutely no relation to the job that you're going to do.
Yeah, that's a great take. Because yeah, first of all, we kind of talking about data science, but we didn't define it if we should. Because yeah, data science is everything from maybe analytics that you could do or visualizations up to ML engineering where you have to code something. So it's like a very broad topic. Something as before was like, or still is known as computer science. So it's everything around computers. Yeah. And yeah, I could try to also answer the same question.
No,
And,
but let's
yeah.
then start with a definition just to make some picture of like what data science is in a common sense and what are the different subfields of the data science. I mean, major ones.
Yeah, to me, like data science is a very like an umbrella term. So everything which has data, I call this data science. And I personally maybe divide the tasks or professions in data science into a data analyst. So this could be, even if you work with data in Excel and you're doing visualizations, I also call it data science. It's still working with data. And so to me, it's more looking in the historical data and trying to explain why something happened. So building dashboards, creating graphs, trying to make them more perceivable and understandable, maybe giving some hints to the management and so on. This I generally call data analysts, data analysis. Then I would say there is an area of, I don't know, we can call it statistics or machine learning. So this is an area where people already sometimes use these techniques of prediction. So they not only explain the historical data, but they try to predict something in the future. So it's kind of very similar, but you also try to build models to think of how the past can be explained in the future. And here you will need a bit more coding skills, at least to get together all the tons of libraries that already exist on the market. And maybe the third group, which I personally split data science into, is, we can call it ML engineering or data engineering. So that's a bit closer to putting all these solutions into production. So you don't necessarily create dashboards or run models, but you're the person who is putting everything together and put it to production and see how it performs with the future. And yeah, to me, that's kind of my internal separation of this, but it depends on the company. So if the company is a small startup, then there is one person doing all these tasks. If the company is Meta, Facebook, then you probably have even more granularity in between.
Yeah, which is typical for big companies. Okay, thank you. Let me try to summarize it, and you can like check if I got it in the right way. So data analytics, it's about explanation of the data, right? They look into it and then explain it somehow on a higher level. Statistics and machine learning, it's more about prediction. So doing some actions based on this data. Machine learning engineering or data engineering, it's about shipping the models to the production to actually solve some business problems.
Yeah, that's a very nice summarization, and it's my personal view. So
yeah, sure. Like, but we have a personal talks, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Could you also tell me something about your experience of interviews?
Yeah, sure. So maybe first I could start from being on the side of the interviewees. So when I was interviewed, or I am interviewed, so I'm doing this from time to time, even not when I'm not looking for a job, just to see what's happening there. So I've been through some processes, and in most of the cases, they are quite similar for data science. So usually you have some introduction chat with a person, and they just ask you what you've been doing before, what you like, and so on. So we're not diving into something really deep and technical things. We're just trying to evaluate if we're can get together, let's say, and if the candidate has some relevant experience. And then the second part is very often a home assignment. So I know that it's a very controversial topic, especially for software engineers. So I know that a lot of people say that, well, I won't spend like a day or two and trying to solve something. But in my experience, that's maybe in 60% of the times when you're interviewing for a data scientist, there is a home assignment.
60.
Yeah, I would say that's my experience. So maybe I'm skewed. I'm mostly not applying to huge companies like Google because there it's different. Yeah, and I personally like home assignments, so maybe I'm a bit weird because to me as a candidate, first of all, I can do something at home when I'm not stressed, I'm alone. And also I can get to know more about the company because usually they give you the real data or at least the mock real data. Yeah. And then you really know what you're going to be doing in the future job. And to me, that's very, very cool. Yeah. And
can you make an example of this home assignments? Like, is it more about data processing or teaching a model or production? Like,
yeah, it actually could be really different. So if we're talking about data analysis, so sometimes it could be something like they give you the data and ask you, well, can you look into the data and come up with some hypothesis? So what's weird or what interesting you see in this data? And if you can, maybe you can explore this hypothesis and prove them wrong or right, and then present it to us. And that's like a very open task. You can find anything you want. And they just look at how you structure your thinking and how you think. Also, it could be something like, here's the data and here is the task, and please solve this task with some machine learning method. So you kind of prepare the data and then pick your algorithm and train the model and then present it. Sometimes it could be a mix of it. And also, if we're talking about machine learning engineering, then people could ask you to create a simple, like, I don't know, service. So they give you the model, or they ask you to train a simple model and then to deploy it in somewhere, locally or in some cloud service or something else. So usually these are the kinds of
Yeah, one thing
tasks.
I just remember from one of my interviews was I was given a set of graphs and I was asked to note down from them or draw analysis from them of. So I was given a graph of the training and the validation epochs, and I was asked to draw conclusions about the kind of model that is being trained. Given this is a graph of say the number of epochs versus the training loss and the validation loss, and in which case will it overfit? If it overfits, draw a new graph for that. If it underfits, draw a new graph for that, and stuff like this. So a lot of graph based questions were also asked. So, and that was, I think, that tested a lot of data science based questions.
Yeah. But this was
sounds
live, as I
interesting.
understand, right? Or this was
uh,
also a home assignment?
no, this was a live assignment, so I was
Right.
just
Yeah.
asked on spot. Conclude
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds really interesting. Yeah. So basically, maybe just finalizing this thought. So usually after this home assignment, you have a final talk interview. When you discuss what you've done at home, you kind of explain it. People ask you questions, and then you come to the question that, for example, Akshita just mentioned. So they can throw something at you and ask you, like, how would you start solving it, how you would be changing it, and these kind of things. Yeah. So
it's not really technical. I mean, this last talk, it's more about how to say it, like interactive talks.
I would say so. So very often it is like this. So for example, it could be technical in a way that if you picked, I don't know, a linear regression model to solve the regression task, then they will ask you, what other models do you have and why did you pick this one? And then you might explain, like, because of this or that, I came up with this idea, but I know that this exists, and in some other cases, I might use them. So in a way, it could be this technical, but most definitely they won't ask you, like, what is the time complexity of this algorithm, and can you please code us the solution of yeah, root mean square error task and something like this. Yeah. But yeah, so this is, as I said, I think I experienced with this kind of interviews around maybe 60% of the time. So with a home assignment. And in other cases, it could be different. So I don't have too much experience with really big companies like Facebook. I was interviewed only once. And there it was different. I mean, everyone knows how it is. You just get there and you have 5 or 6 stages of different interviews. So coding, algorithms, and similar stuff. There it's very different. You just get with the person, you have like an hour and you have to solve 2 or 3 tasks and you do it live, and yeah, it's coding. But also there's, yeah, Nikolay, please.
Yeah, I wanted to ask what's about the rest 30-40% of the cases where you don't have home assignment and you probably have like strong technical interview, right?
Yeah, so these companies are trying to kind of balance out, so they try not to spend too much time of the candidate's time on home assignments, but at the same time they have to evaluate their coding skills. So usually they offer something in between. In my experience, it was so sometimes they give you like so it's live. They give you maybe a piece of code, like a small function, and they ask you like, can you see something weird in it? Can you maybe fix it or correct it, or could you explain what's happening in here? So this could be one of the things, and here they can evaluate your coding skills. Or it could be something which maybe is more interesting for data scientists. It is a small coding task, but it's not about algorithms. It's more about analytics. So they again can give you some data set. They explain what's in here, and then they ask you, so let's pretend you're, I don't know, a business owner, and you have to find what is the optimal, I don't know, so for example, they give you a data set of the products that have been sold during the last months, like the product item and the price. And then they ask you like, what would you do to find the optimal price for this product? And then you can like tell something, then you can code your thoughts. It's not about like being really cool at coding. It's mostly about how you think. But also they check whether you can handle the tools which data scientists use. Even with Googling, it's okay. So you don't have to memorize everything, but they just see how you operate with these tasks. And yeah.
You usually code there with some libraries. I mean, high-level libraries like pandas or something like that, right? I mean, you don't
exactly.
need to implement it in a low level with circles and.
No. Of course, yeah. You can use all these libraries, yeah. And it's actually you're supposed to do it, so they want to check whether you know it. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And some other examples of on-site live interview.
Yeah, I think I haven't been to an on-site interview for quite a while because of COVID. But as far as I remember, there was something like Akshita mentioned when there is a whiteboard, and maybe you can talk about something like he mentioned that they give you like a piece of the big algorithm, like you mentioned, I think RNN. Is it recurrent neural networks? Yeah, I honestly don't know too much about it. But I think in one of the companies, we had this discussion of just generally convolutional neural networks, like CNNs. And we were thinking, they were asking me about the concepts like how can you regularize these neural networks? So basically there is a concept of dropout. And they were asking me like, can you explain just in basic words what it is? You can draw something and why it works and all these things. Or yeah, I mean, so basically it's trying to explain complex things in an easy ways, and you can also draw, but it's not about like writing a code, I would say. It's more about
and
checking.
Also you don't need to write like math there to prove that stuff, right? Or you need to do it.
I think many years ago I encountered this question where someone asked me to prove something. I think I didn't do it, and I think I'm happy that I didn't. So now I think if someone, I think if someone will ask me in the interview, like, please prove this or that, not that I will like stand up and go away, but I will be very suspicious. Like, why is it happening? Like, what kind of work are they gonna do? I'm gonna be doing there. Yeah.
Should I prove math theorems during my working life?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, it will probably tell me that people just started the interviewing process and they don't know what to ask, and they just remembering what they've been asked in the university or so.
Or they're just trying to be, a bully there.
Yeah, or simply this, It's even worse to be as a candidate.
Understandable.
Yeah.
So, but based now, it would be nice to hear your experience as an interviewer.
Yeah. So again, I'm mostly working in the middle-sized companies, like that, which are not startups but not huge corporates. So we don't have like a huge list of candidates, but still it's not a couple of people. So sometimes mostly we have a couple of stages, and so recently in my current company, what we sometimes do, so before, when people apply for the position, we sometimes introduce a small test. It could be like an easy test, like asking about small theoretical things, but that every data scientist is supposed to know. I don't know.
For example?
Like for example, like what. So we give a list of metrics. I don't know, it's an ABCD test. We give like 4 different metrics and say what is the metric for a classification task, because some metrics are for regression tasks, some are for classification. So if you're doing data science for some time, you have to know it. So there is no way you don't know it. So these kind of things are just supposed to filter out the candidates who are really starters and don't know like really basic things. Unfortunately, we don't have time to teach them. If it's not an intern position, of course. For intern positions, it's different. But for already like mid or senior data scientists, we expect that they know it, and that really helps us filter, like, I don't know, from hundreds of candidates to maybe dozens or something like this. And then we have a very similar structure that I discussed before. We just meet with the candidate, we talk and try to understand what they've been doing in the past. Is it somehow relevant? And then we usually have this home assignment task. But if the candidate doesn't want to do it, we can offer them a live coding task.
Okay.
If they want it. So it's kind of
flexibility.
Yes, it's flexibility, although it's a bit hard then to compare these candidates to each other, because one did a home assignment and another live assignment. That's another level of complexity. Mostly we go with a home assignment. And for us, there's actually another type of home assignments that we sometimes employ. So it's not only about solving a problem that we were talking before, but sometimes we ask to present some paper. So it sounds a bit weird. So we can pick a paper which is like a very famous and important paper in the world. So, for example, a paper which introduced these convolutional neural networks. So it's like a very well-known paper from 2012, I think, and it introduces a couple of really nice concepts, but it's not very technical. So we ask the person like to go for it and to give us a small presentation of how they will talk about it. And in this way, we're trying to check like 2 things. So first of all, how they can understand this scientific information, and also how they turn it into a human readable, understandable way. Yeah, that's another one.
That's a really interesting way to check communication skills of candidates.
I agree. Yeah. I think not only communication skills, like it's just a bunch of skills of like processing information, understanding it, making a model inside your mind and then presenting. Yeah, sounds like a cool and super simple idea.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I remember when I was doing it as a candidate, I was I was not really understanding why should I do it, go through it. But then while doing it, I really liked it. So I started reading about this topic more and more because that wasn't something I've been doing.
And is it connected to your typical day-to-day life? I mean, in your company, is it common to read some papers from Arxiv and share the info?
In a way, it is. I cannot say that we always do it, but in some cases, so I can say that I should say that I work in a consulting company, and we have multiple projects at once. And some of the projects, they require some additional knowledge from us. So it could be from the area that I have almost no experience in. And in this case, I very often go to and check some other like archive papers or something I can find in the internet, and I'm just trying to go through them and understand what people already been doing. And mostly it's for just general knowledge. Not that I'm gonna implement the stuff that's is described in the particle, most probably not. But I just want to understand what's already been done and just not go through it myself. Myself. So partially it is the work that you are going to be doing, and in different companies. So sometimes sometimes a company has an R&D department. Then I would say it's much more popular, this kind of stuff. So people already have some system that works nice, and they have to come up with new ideas how to improve it. And I think in this setup, it's much more often that they go to Archive and browse for the articles and try to get something really useful and insightful.
Makes sense. Yeah. I'm trying now to summarize the skills from your experience that you explained. So I would say that you need to understand data processing or like analysis, right? Like you use pandas and then gather some info either for getting some insights about the data itself, or maybe some insights how to teach the model on this data, right? And second block, I would say it's teaching the model, like fit predict, right?
Yeah.
But you'll also have to understand which model to use based on this first step. And then production, or like, is it something connected to metrics before the production?
Yeah, actually, if you want, you just jump in.
Yeah, like I think monitoring metrics is really important because that's it, actually the evaluation of your work that you've done all along.
Yeah.
But how could you check that the metrics that you use were right metrics? Is it checkable?
Yeah, to me that's a very nice group of questions. So I think recently there is this concept of MLOps. So that's just another buzzword that people came up for, machine learning operations. And to me, that's everything that comes up right after you train the model. So you train the model, then you did some predictions live, and you got probably some metrics, or even you're trying to come up with metrics, and then you have to evaluate are they good or bad, how you do it, how you then iterate, how should you retrain your model, is it already worse? So like at first you train the model, its performance is like this, but then with time it drops. And at some moment you have to retrain it or maybe come up with a new model. And this is a huge set of things that's now we call MLOps. People are trying to build like frameworks which will take a model and try to kind of babysit it. You kind of specify that these are the metrics, and this framework will look in these metrics in time and then ping you like, hey, this metric is dropping. You have to do something, or maybe they can even do it themselves. But if you're trying to put it into the skills that data scientists might develop in themselves, then I would say it's there's this types of interviews called ML system design. So people give you the task, for example, let's imagine we're Facebook and you have to create the friends feed. So you as a customer, you see the feed, so the posts from your friends or their notification status updates, and you as a data scientist have to come up with the strategy of how to build it. And this is a very broad task, but during this task, you can come up with some ideas of, first of all, where to get the data, as you mentioned, how to process it, then what kind of model to pick, how to train it, and then what kind of metrics to pick, and how also to track them. And so these are three aspects. And then also maybe you can talk a bit about how to ship it into production. So actually 4 aspects. I'm not sure if I kind of answered your question. I think I drifted away, but
I think it's quite connected to my question, but now I messed up a bit between MLOps and MLE. I mean, ML engineers. Like, how do they connect to each other?
To be honest, I think it's more or less the same to me.
Okay.
So,
now it's clear. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's just another word which is kind of popular. To me, yeah, it's operations around.
Do you agree?
With what?
Actually, do you agree with this statement?
I mean, partly because, like, as software engineers, we're taught that you are responsible for your own operations, own deployments, and stuff. So, if you're building something, you should be able to, deploy it and take it to production. So, I think I kind of agree on that.
Okay, thank you. And the next question that comes up to my mind is how deep the MLOps or MLE should understand this like model stuff. Like, should they know how random forest is implemented inside, like that it's a bunch of trees with like bootstrapping and stuff like that?
Actually, do they want to take it?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. I'm saying, I mean, both of them are, yeah, I mean, they are related in some way, so you kind of do need to know a bit of the stuff on the outside. But again, similar to DevOps, like how DevOps work, you are basically dealing with automating all of the stuff that the people are doing there. So you're just trying to make their work less of a hassle. And similarly with MLOps, I think if you're if you know your way around using no-code tools and building pipelines and stuff for your models to go through production, you do not really need to know how those models are built to automate them. So yeah, you do need a basic understanding of what you're doing and why you're doing, but not exactly how the black box and the things inside it work. So not according to me, no.
Okay, and should they know about data, like nature itself, like what's the nature of this data, or it's also kind of
Obviously,
black
I mean
box?
that is something they need to know because at the end they're producing business insights from it. So they need to know what kind of data they're working on so that they can better produce whatever decisions they're going to take out of that data, or whatever processes they're using to say, they're applying on the data, and whatever outcome they're getting out of it, they should know that this is useful for the business analytics team that's going to use this data afterwards, or the consumers that are going to make use of this data. So they should have an insight of what's coming in versus what's going out.
Okay, and the same question about metrics. Like, so the data is about inputs, right? And metrics is kind of outputs. So should they understand the nature of this metrics and why, like, we use this or that, or it's kind of black box? We know that something is calculated, we have some number, and we just send this number to somebody.
No, absolutely not. I mean, metrics are definitely important. So, if you are just improving the speed of delivery, or say you're reducing the training time of the models, but if they're not producing the correct output, how is this even relevant to perform the entire process? So, they do need to have like, again, they need to have like a how to explain that, they need to have a surface level understanding, but they need not go into the depth of whatever is happening.
Okay,
Yeah.
you get it?
Yeah, I would say that I mostly agree in all the aspects with Akshita. So definitely, if talking about the models, about the I don't know how random forest works, if you're an ML engineer, your first primary responsibility is to make it work in production, yes. But at the same moment, I think it's very nice that you understand the basic concepts. You don't have to know like how exactly it works, but I think it's useful to know that, for example, there are some attributes to this model. Just for instance, for random forest, I think by default, there is no specification of max depth of the algorithms. And if you just apply random forest without specification, it will highly likely overfit. And if you, as a ML ops or engineer or MLE, look at it at the solution and you see that people just didn't put attributes, you probably have to raise a question in here and not just send it to the next stage and implement the production system. And I think it goes about every step. It goes about data processing. If you see that something wasn't done really correctly, if you already work in the company, I don't know, for 3 or 4 years, and you know that this database is not holding the very, I don't know, clear data, and someone is using it, then you have to go to the person and maybe talk about it. Yeah. And the same about the metrics. If you see that somehow people picked, I don't know, accuracy for binary classification before you, for skewed binary classification, then probably you have to say that, well, it's not the best metric, and I can, of course, implement it for you in the production, but I guess it won't be really useful. So let's maybe have a step back and discuss it. So just summing up, you don't have to know how exactly it works, but you need to be familiar with some broad concepts and be able to jump in. Yeah.
But for MLOps, those concepts are more like guard role. I mean, that I don't use it myself, but I can see if somebody did it in a wrong way, and I can raise a question here, right?
Yeah, so I think for MLOps, any MLE engineer who's like a senior now and who does not really want to do the nitty gritty work and get their heads all into the specifications and details of it, but they do know how the stuff is working. So they are the best person to, handle the MLOps, because they'll be the best people to kind of have an overlook of the entire thing, the entire automation process that's going on, and stuff that's coming in, that stuff that's going out, how, and they need not put their heads exactly into, is this working the right way, are all the layers trained properly, are all the hyperparameters, fixated as they are, but they do understand if the output that is being produced is exactly correct or not. So I think somebody who's done that portion previously, who's been into the depth of the black box, can, eventually just surface up as an MLOps engineer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think now we can come up like with another deviation, like what is the best way to become an ML engineer? So coming from computer science or coming from data analysis, right?
That's a
But I
great
won't do it.
question. Do you have any opinions on that?
I guess everything's possible, so it's just two different ways. So I personally come from data analysis, and I really feel that I lack some software engineering background of how to code properly, how to structure systems. But maybe at the same time, a person who comes from computer science, they might feel that they lack a bit of this, I don't know, thinking of what exactly is happening in the system, why is it predicting this metric, and how is it going to be used in the future. But it's a bit hard for me to say from this perspective. So Nikolay, maybe you could answer it because you're coming from the computer science, right?
For me, I think it was quite easy to get the main concepts of the entire machine learning field, like from the data processing up to metrics and models implementation and some math background, but maybe it's because of my physics background.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I would say that it was quite easy, but still, I'm not really deep into all this stuff. I mean, it would be extremely difficult for me to understand how I should change the architecture of neural network to make it more applicable for this particular task.
Yeah, I mean, generally, it's also my take. I personally think that it's easier to learn a couple of concepts of data science rather than for data analysts to learn a couple of concepts of computer science. It's a bit broader. Yeah.
Like, I still have one question about more like ML part, not MLE and MLOps. I'm trying to figure out if it's important to understand how the model is working inside. I mean, with all the details, or it's better if the candidate know how to use it and in which cases, like it's good or bad, and which consequences can appear.
Yeah, I think so. My take is that you definitely have to understand in what cases to use it and which consequences you might deal with. But also, as I mentioned, it's nice to understand what are the attributes, what are they used for, and to understand this, you probably have to dig a bit deeper into like what the model is doing inside. But to me, it's not necessary that you are able to re-implement the whole algorithm from scratch. So I know that a lot of people are training for this, and at the start of my data science career, I also tried to code some simple algorithms from scratch. Didn't really succeed a lot. I think it's a very nice exercise, yeah, but you probably don't have to do it. You just have to, in my opinion, you have to understand how it works, like the trees. What is a tree? It tries to find some feature which will split your sample in a most meaningful way. What is most meaningful? There is some metric for it. How exactly this metric is calculated, you can like go deeper and deeper and see what is the best metric for this to be calculated and what are the different ways to split your data sets. To me, it's very useful to understand the high-level concept, and then if you're interested and if you have a particular task, that you know where to Google basically, and that you can improve or shift your algorithm.
Okay, that's an interesting outcome, because now, like in our current beta alpha implementation of machine learning framework, I mean, for assessment, we ask candidates to implement a simple version of like either random forest or decision tree or k-means, something. So we prepare several functions, and we have like the main structure, how to call those functions, but you have to fill in the functions, I mean, to implement them. And based on the discussion, like this one and previous ones that I had, it seems that it would be much better to turn this task into actual like usage of the model than implementing it.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm not saying that I'm the ground truth, and there are other opinions. And I know that, for example, in the many online courses, there are these kind of tasks that you're given a function which lacks a bit of a content, and you have to fill this content in. I think that's a great task. And personally, I think it's very nice that if the person can fill the content for K&M, for example, because it's relatively straightforward and people should understand how it works. And also, I don't know like which content missing in these functions. So if it's about like heavy algorithms, like calculating the entropy in the random forest, then probably it's too much to me. But if it's something like around, I don't know, iterating through the features and trying to understand like what is the most important feature and then sending it to the next stage, then I think it's really meaningful. So that people
it's kind of like that. So for metric calculations, we just import some functions from like some libraries and allow candidates to use them.
Yeah, I think in this case it's pretty nice, and to me it would be much more interesting rather than trying to, I don't know, sort or resort the algorithm in some LeadCode task. Yeah. Yeah.
One possible way of judging this could be importing, say, a complex layered model. Say you import an RNN, or you import a custom LSTM model, and you ask the candidate to change or tune the hyperparameters for that model. So you change the number of layers, the number of nodes, and then you kind of visualize that for them, and you visualize the performance of the model after you tune the hyperparameters for them. So if you're changing the number of layers, is the performance plateauing? If it's plateauing, what else can you change? So stuff like this would be a really good exercise, to try hands on.
Mm-hmm.
Might be a
Okay,
little
so
difficult to implement.
you mean just common usage of some grid search or something like that, or something more complex?
I think both can be incorporated depending on the difficulty of the question that the interviewer wants to take up. That.
Okay.
And currently, so Nikolay, you're mostly talking about the tasks that are supposed to be online, like without a supervisor, right?
Yeah. Like actually, we have two different products. First is this automatic assessment, which you usually pass either like in 70 or 90 minutes, depending on the framework, how we call it. And another product, is an interview mode. It's kind of free coding mode where you have some templates for the interview. So you already have some description of the task, you have the task, and maybe you have even tests prepared for the candidate to quickly check if the code is correct or not. But that's for like live interview. So it's two different branches of the product, and now we are more focusing on the automatic assessment because it's much more scalable. I mean, obviously, but still keeping interview modes in a fresh state to be up to date with the industry and to like refresh our questions, because we have a obvious problem that questions are leaking somewhere in the internet, and that candidates go and find them and then implement. So we have a bunch of tricks to avoid cheating as much as possible. Yeah,
that's a problem. And for example, for this kind of task that you just talked about, like that you have to fill in some parts of the functions, how is it evaluated if it's online? Just by the
okay. Let me say a couple of questions about the entire structure. Like, for example, for ML framework, we have several tasks. So we call it different slots, and each slot should assess some skills or knowledge that you have. For example, first slot is just a quiz question, like you explain these ABCD options, but we are trying to make it super difficult to distinguish between these options. So it's not like one right option and others are obviously wrong. So you can have several correct options, but only one will be relevant to the question. I mean, so several of them are correct, but you have to think like which is connected to the questions that you asked. And second slot, for now, it's a machine learning engineering framework, which we have to split probably. So second slot is just common implementation of some simple problem. It's not like algorithmic with a difficult implementation. I mean, you don't need to optimize there anything. You just need to code the things that you've been explained in the description. So just simple checking. Third slot is a implementation of the model for now, and fourth one is deploying it, but in a really simple way, like with Python and Flask. You have to make a simple service, and different slots we assess by different ways. First one is like, obviously, you just need to check if this answer is correct. And coding questions we usually assess by some preset of tests. So like for common coding question, we just have like 20 tests which check that it's right. For implementation of the algorithm, we usually fix some random seed if it's random related algorithm, like random forest. And then we put different input data sets and check that output is the same as we expected with this particular random seed.
Yeah.
So we can check if the implementation is correct or not. And of course, we like explain in the description some common ideas of the algorithm if candidate missed something like entropy.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to see being a candidate maybe in some of the interviewing processes.
Yeah, I think that's in a month, I guess, or even earlier. I can just send you a better link to check it out and maybe gain some real feedback on it.
Yeah, and I would struggle for some time and then come back to you. Yeah, would be awesome. Just general thoughts, guys. So, do you think that we could continue with some discussions, or because it's already an hour? If we have like too many topics left, then I suggest we can make a second iteration. Or if it's not that much to discuss, we can still go on for some time. It's mostly you taking away. Yeah. No pressure. I mean, yeah, meantime, we can just yeah, I'm still yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
No, I'm just was coming back to this question of how to assess or evaluate the candidate's tasks, because when you're doing something online, you're kind of under stress. You can forget something, make a simple, silly mistake, and then there is no supervisor looking at what you're doing. Then, if you made this mistake, then it's gone. You kind of didn't solve anything, and the test will fail, all of them.
The beauty of this test approach is that if it's not a quiz question, you can see that those tests are failed on these input examples. You have this output, and this output is expected, and here is the difference. So you can think of the problem, find it, and resubmit it. So it's not like you have only one chance.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, so it's basically executable while coding. Yeah, that's much better.
I think that's I got the main idea of your personal separation of data analytics, machine learning, and machine learning engineering and ops, and the difference between the last, not between the last two, because the difference is tricky, but between typical ML and MLE. And the separation of the skills that you expect from them. So ML ops, it's more like ML ops and ML engineers. They are more like backend or DevOps, but for ML related sphere, field. So they have to have some context about it without really deep understanding of it, to be able to check that everything is right or maybe something is wrong. And raise a question. And ML specialist is more about deep understanding the models, the ways of processing the data, and how to calculate metrics and which metrics are more, are important for this particular task. Either it's classification or detection or something like that, and also maybe connected to the business part, right? If like false positives are super important for us and we want to avoid it, maybe we have to use some metrics that allow us to make a trade-off between it.
Yeah, totally. Actually, if I may, I have maybe two questions or two small topics. So if you're an interviewer, if you're going to be working with this system, can you somehow pick the areas or maybe the tooling that you want to assess for the candidate? So I don't know if it's pure Python or if it's SQL or if it's Python and it should be connected to deep learning libraries or methods, or it's not deep learning, or could it somehow be changed?
You mean picking an environment or the question itself?
I'm not sure. So, for example, if you're interviewing for a deep learning position, then most probably these people have to be able to work with some deep learning packages like TensorFlow or
Yeah.
PyTorch. But if you're interviewing for a general ML position, then these people probably will work with sklearn and pandas mostly.
Yep. So basically, our platform is an online IDE, which is quite good. I mean, I would say that it's one of the best online IDEs that I've ever tried, and I tried a lot of them due to my teaching experience. And in this IDE, we have just different environments that you can choose. And usually for ML questions, we have an environment with a bunch of these libraries, so you can use any of them, and also with a Flask to deploy it.
Mm-hmm.
So you just pick a question, and if this question is connected to ML, you will have all the tools that, like all the common tools that you would need there. So candidates will not need to do anything, even people install.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And just another topic that we briefly touched regarding the seniority. So sometimes there are senior candidates, sometimes interns. Like, do you have any thoughts on this?
That's actually what I wanted to ask, but forgot. Yeah. For now, we are preparing two different versions of this ML framework. We have a core version and industry version. So core version is more about understanding the core concepts, and industry is more about the industry skills. So it's less about understanding the concept, but about the skills. So in industry, we are going to put more things connected to deployment and maybe more things connected to some pre-processing. I mean, some how to explain it? I mean, which requires deep understanding of the data and then choosing the right way to pre-process it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we still are trying to understand the weights of different skills for like intern, junior, or low mid positions, and high mid and senior positions. So if you can jump in here and tell me about your own perspective on it, would be super helpful.
Yeah.
It's a complex subjective thing to assess skills, or categorize skills based on seniority levels. I mean, if humans aren't able to do it even today, it'll be a really big challenge to feed it into computer programs and have that assessed.
Yeah, I totally agree that it's very hard, and especially like if you're an intern or maybe a junior data scientist, then most likely you just have studied a lot of the theoretical things and you remember all the concepts, and for you it's easier in a way to implement something from scratch or theoretical. But on the other hand, if you're already working for some time and maybe you're a lead position where you do not do hands-on stuff quite often, then probably you are more focused on high-level questions like which metrics to pick, how to do MLOps, and so on, and you probably will struggle with some low-level theoretical questions. So just generally, I think it might be somehow aligned, taken into account at least. So I'm not entirely sure in what way. I think there is no perfect answer.
Yeah, also there's no demarcation of the skill set, that if someone's a fresher, they probably do not, know as much as a senior does. Because I personally know of somebody who's who just graduated, say, 2 years ago, and now they're working with TensorFlow as a developer advocate, and they've written a lot of core code for TensorFlow, including the video classifier that they released a couple of years ago. So it was written by this particular person who just graduated 2 years ago. And if you're comparing them to, say, some senior who's been working in this field for years now, that won't really be a fair comparison. And these skills do not fill into some brackets. I don't know how that's going to be done in the coming future, but we'll see.
Totally, yeah. So I think, Nikolay, you mentioned the way that you're going to weigh different types of questions, or
I didn't mean that we are going to weight them differently based on the seniority level. I mean that we don't want to put real weights for different questions and to score them according to this weight. I meant that based on the weight that you can give me, we will change the questions itself for different experience level. So we can remove some simple questions about maybe some simple implementation for the, but we can add something connected to the deployment or something connected to the right metrics. I mean, to choosing the right metrics. So that's why I want to get the weights, not to really put it as a numbers for our assessment.
I get it. Yeah.
Again, I think one assessment where I was required to demonstrate my Python backend skills, and it was really interesting in a way that the quiz platform, it was a MCQ based quiz platform, and they were like, we'll start with the basic level for everybody here, and once we start from basic level, the answer that you give determines your skill level and puts you into two brackets. So if you gave the correct answer, you were ready for the next harder question. If you gave the correct answer, you're ready for the next harder question. And the hardness increases if you give the correct answers. And if you give a wrong question, you come one step down the tree. So
that's cool.
they divided
so it's kind of
yeah.
Dynamic evaluation of your seniority level.
So no two people's quiz can
cool.
be same, and that is how it works.
Yeah.
So basically, you can apply for junior role, but during the assessment, you can gain the senior level because you have all the required skills and knowledge. Sounds cool. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very interesting framework. Yeah, I would say. Yeah, I don't know. My general take is that it's kind of hard to automatically evaluate the aspects which are connected to the experience of the person. Like, have he or she worked with this system, or have they solved similar problems? So what is their background? And I think in real life, this experience and background is really important. So it might bring value. So it's like a very big question to me.
But
So,
again, I think in the first stage of filtering candidates, there needs to be something that be automated. Otherwise, there'll be a lot of human resources going into just filtering candidates that are not required.
yeah, that totally.
Yeah, actually, that's why we, at least in the closest future, we are not going to assess the seniority level. So like we give it to the company to assess the seniority level first, like maybe based on the CV or something. And then when they applied for senior level position, we can send this second, this industry level framework. Or if it's an application for the junior position, we will send the core version of the framework. So we don't really assess the seniority. We already got the information about expected seniority level, and then we just check if the person fits the requirements or not. If the person fits it better than others.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect approach. But if I were a company, I would be thankful for this one.
Yeah. Actually, if you want, I can just quickly show how our platform looks like in a free coding mode. I mean, without the question.
That'd be great.
Share the screen.
Yeah, you can share it, and I will bring it into the foreground.
my share button doesn't work.
Oh, I can grant you rights somehow. Let me see.
Cool.
I'm not sure how exactly. Let me struggle for just a bit.
It does work for me though. I mean, it looks deactivated, but it works for me. I mean, you can try once.
What?
So actually, says that for her, the sharing button works.
Yeah, the share button works. I mean, it looks deactivated, but it does work.
But Nikolay, you cannot press on the share screen button, yeah?
Yeah, I press on the share screen. I have a small window, and then I have two buttons, cancel and share button is kind of gray. I mean, like it doesn't.
Yeah, so you need to
he-
select the screen
Oh,
that you want to share.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Now it's here. Cool. So
Teamwork.
please update system permissions. Oof. Check it.
Security.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know which system permission I have to update. Yeah. Tech guys. Okay, maybe I can send you the link and you will just open it.
Yeah, I could do it. There's a internal chat. You can use it.
Let's check this one.
Okay, yeah, let me open it. So, okay, then I just open it in a separate window. And let me share it. So let me know if you see it.
Yep, you can see it.
Perfect. Then I can do something if you guide me.
Yeah, so that's basically how candidates will see the platform. You can either zoom it to make it better looking, but the thing is that on the left side you see a panel in which you usually see the description of the task. This one is not a task because we don't want to leak it. So it's just a free coding option where you can take a look on the platform, but you can run Jupyter Notebook in the terminal because it's Docker container. So it's your own environment where you can install packages, run the servers, or do anything you want. Also, you see the files. I mean, it's just common file system structure. You don't have a permission. Yeah, exactly.
Can I open just the files or?
Yeah. You can open. Here is nothing really important. You cannot really do anything because you don't have a permission. It was like admin link, but you can see the files. So we can upload some files like CSV files here, and then you will run the Jupyter notebook, which will appear on the right side, and write your Python code there to analyze the file, feed the model with some data, do some preprocessing and stuff.
Yeah, and then there's a terminal where I can run it, right?
Yeah.
Or, do we have Python? Yes, we do.
Sure.
And it works.
As it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So the main difference with real candidate's experience is that here you don't see any tests, and in Visual Task you will see the test, and you will see the big button like run the tests, and you will see some fields where you have to put your own code according to the description, and then test will either pass or not. Or if it's a live interview, you will be able to implement your stuff in Jupyter and see that it works or not and check the metrics.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm just checking stupid things. Oops. It's autosave, right? You don't have to press save.
Yeah.
So am I in the, oops. Yeah, I did a stupid thing. CD, where I'm supposed to be?
You're in the home directory right now, I guess.
I just did the CD without anything.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, so you can use user code file system or exit or anything you want.
Perfect. Can I reopen the terminal? I can.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, yeah. So if I do Python continent, oops. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that was stupid. You see, I'm already making mistakes for my online interview. Yes, it worked. Nice. Yeah, I'm just playing around, so feel free to guide me in any direction.
I don't know if it will be possible for you without admin rights, but you can try to type Jupyter Notebook in the terminal.
Yeah, so I
and then you
open this
see the panel on the right side. You can like press the button of reload.
Not sure if it's working for me.
Yeah.
Or this one.
No. This one was right. Yeah, probably you just don't have right for it. Okay.
Yeah, but basically the notebook will be rendered in here.
Yeah. So you can then either open it in another tab, like the button close to the reload one, or you can just zoom it to use all of the screen.
Got it. Well, yeah, it's quite a nice one. So, and here the task is kind of printed, right?
Yeah, usually we put tasks here. So you explanation, for example, of the like main idea of the random forest, and then just a couple of steps that you have to do, and then you just fill the some comments like to do right implementation here. And you can press the button run and check if the tests are passed or not, and if not, you can change your code again and you're done, or until the time will finish.
Yeah, to me it's very user friendly. And the main question, where is the countdown timer when you're doing it live?
I don't remember where exactly. I think that's on the right upper corner, somewhere here, I guess. Yeah, but it's visual. I promise.
I mean, this could very much be the future of interviews and stuff.
Yeah,
I think it has to be.
Yeah. No, really nice. Yeah, I would be really up for trying it. When you set like in a month or so, you will have a better version. It will be really good.
So
yeah.
let's summarize it somehow. I think that I asked most of my questions that were relevant to the topic.
Yeah, thanks a lot for doing this. And to me, that was a very, I don't know, fun and fruitful conversation. And
Yeah, I mean, I learned a few new perspectives. So great job
yeah,
here.
thanks a
Cool.
lot. Yeah, and now I'm looking forward to the
Thank you for your
development of
time.
CodeSignal.
It was interesting and a lot of real life information from experienced people.
Yeah. Good. Then, yeah, thanks everyone who is watching or will be watching this. And have a great weekend. And hope to see you
Yep.
soon.
Happy
Bye.
holidays, everyone.
Likewise. Bye bye.